started with a sound so soft that I thought I was imagining it. Not a bang, not a scream, just a low, steady hum, like an old refrigerator working too hard or a power line vibrating in the distance. The kind of sound you only notice when the world is completely quiet. I remember opening my eyes in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening. The clock on my phone read 2:03 a.m. That was the first night the house hummed. And once you hear it, you never forget it. I didn't want to believe there was anything strange about the place. It was supposed to be a simple overnight stay, nothing more. A quiet house on the edge of town, borrowed from a distant relative who said we could use it for the weekend. No neighbors close enough to complain. No traffic noise. Just a peaceful spot to relax, sleep, and reset our minds. At least, that's what we thought when we arrived before sunset, laughing, unloading bags, and making jokes about how creepy the place looked from the outside. The house was old, but not the kind of old that feels haunted right away. The paint was faded, the wood porch creaked under our feet, and the windows had that slightly cloudy look that comes with age. Inside, it smelled like dust and wood polish, a smell that reminded me of my grandparents' place. Nothing felt dangerous, nothing felt wrong. Yet even then, there was a quiet heaviness in the air, like the house was holding its breath. There were 3 of us, me, my cousin Ayan, and our friend Samir. We'd grown up together, shared late-night stories, horror movies, and countless sleepless nights talking about life. We were the kind of people who didn't scare easily, or at least we liked to think so. When someone joked about the house being creepy, the others laughed it off. We were adults, rational, logical. Sounds have explanations. Old houses make noise. That's what we told ourselves. As night fell, the house changed in small ways that were easy to ignore. Shadows seemed longer. The corners of rooms felt darker than they should. The silence between our conversations stretched just a bit too long. We cooked a simple dinner, ate at the small wooden table, and talked about random things to fill the quiet. Every now and then, I felt the urge to look down the hallway, toward the back of the house where the bedrooms were. I don't know why. Nothing was there. Just darkness. We decided to sleep early. No late-night movies. No loud music. Just rest. Each of us took a room, doors left slightly open, lights off. I lay in bed scrolling on my phone, waiting for sleep to come. The house settled around us with the usual sounds. Wood popping, distant creaks. The soft whistle of wind through a cracked window. Normal sounds. Harmless sounds. Then, at exactly 2 a.m., the hum began. It wasn't loud. That's what made it worse. It was low, steady, and constant, like it had always been there and I was only just now noticing it. At first, I thought it was my phone vibrating. I checked the screen. Nothing. I held my breath and listened. The sound wasn't coming from my room exactly. It felt like it was coming from everywhere and nowhere at the same time, filling the walls, the floor, the air itself. I tried to ignore it. I told myself it was an appliance, maybe the water heater or some old wiring. Old houses hum. That's normal, right? I rolled onto my side, pulled the blanket up, and closed my eyes. The hum didn't stop. It didn't change. It just stayed there, pressing gently against my ears. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed softly with a message. "Are you hearing that?" Ayan texted. My stomach tightened. I wasn't alone in this. I typed back, "Yeah, probably nothing." Even as I sent the message, I knew how weak it sounded. If it was nothing, why did it feel like my chest was tight? Why did the room feel colder? Why did I suddenly feel like I shouldn't move? Another message came through, this time from Samir. "Guys, what is that sound? We all heard it." That should have been comforting. Instead, it made everything worse. I got out of bed and stepped into the hallway. The floor was cold under my feet. The hum was louder here, clearer, like it was guiding me somewhere. Ayan's door opened across from mine, his face pale in the dim light from his phone screen. Samir joined us moments later, rubbing his eyes, trying to look calm and failing. "What do you think it is?" Samir whispered, even though there was no one else in the house. "No idea," Ayan said. "But it started right at 2. I checked. That detail stuck with me. Exactly 2 a.m. Not around. Not after. Right on the minute. I laughed softly, trying to break the tension. Maybe the house just has a schedule, I joked. No one laughed. We followed the sound toward the living room. The hum felt stronger there, like the air itself was vibrating. I placed my hand on the wall, half expecting to feel something. The wall was still, silent. The sound didn't come from any single place. It just existed. Let's check the basement, Samir said. The basement door was at the end of the hallway, a narrow wooden door that led down into darkness. None of us wanted to open it, but none of us wanted to be the one to say no. Ion reached for the handle and paused. Guys, he said quietly, what if we just ignore it and go back to sleep? I wanted to agree. I really did. But something about the hum made that feel impossible. Like it wouldn't let us sleep. Like it wanted us awake. We opened the door. The stairs creaked as we descended, phone lights cutting through the darkness. The hum was louder down there, deeper, almost felt more than heard. My skin prickled. The basement was empty. Just concrete walls, old boxes, and a faint smell of damp earth. No machines running. No visible source of the sound. This doesn't make sense, I said. That was when the hum stopped. The silence was sudden and complete. My ears rang from the absence of sound. For a moment, none of us moved. None of us breathed. The basement felt wrong without the hum, like something had been taken away. Okay, Samir said, his voice shaking. I don't like that. We went back upstairs quickly, closing the basement door behind us. The house was silent again, too silent. We stood in the living room, unsure what to do next. Maybe it's over, Ion said. As if responding to his words, the hum started again. This time it was different. It was softer, almost gentle, but it carried a strange rhythm, like breathing. Slow, steady, alive. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. The sound seemed closer now, like it had moved. Tell me you hear that too, I said. They nodded. We checked the time again. 2:17 a.m. That's when we realized the hum wasn't constant. Came in waves. It faded slightly, then returned stronger, like it was circling the house. Listening. Waiting. Every instinct in my body told me we shouldn't be there, that we should leave right then and there, no matter how late it was. But we didn't leave. Something held us there. Maybe pride. Maybe fear. Maybe the need to understand what was happening. We sat together in the living room, lights on, trying to talk over the sound. We shared theories, each one more desperate than the last. Electrical issues, nearby machinery, a distant generator. None of them fit. None of them explained why the sound felt like it was inside the house, not outside. As the night dragged on, the hum began to change again. It wasn't just a single tone anymore. There were layers to it, faint rises and dips that almost sounded like voices if you listened too hard. I told myself not to listen too hard. I focused on my breathing, on the feeling of the couch beneath me, on the warm glow of the lamp. At some point, Samir fell asleep sitting up, exhaustion overtaking fear. Ion leaned against the armrest, eyes closed but not really sleeping. I stayed awake, watching the shadows shift on the walls, listening to the house hum its strange, sleepless song. Every now and then, I thought I heard something else mixed in with the sound. A faint knock, a whisper, a movement from the hallway. Each time, I told myself it was my imagination, fueled by a creepy story and a lack of sleep. But deep down, I knew this was different. At exactly 4 a.m., the hum grew louder than it had ever been. The lights flickered. Ion sat up instantly. Samir jolted awake, eyes wide. The sound filled the room, pressing against us, vibrating in our chests. I felt like the house was waking up, stretching after a long sleep. Guys, Ion said, his voice barely audible over the hum. I think something's about to happen. And that's when we heard footsteps. Slow, heavy, coming from the hallway. We froze, staring at the dark entrance to the corridor, hearts pounding, unable to move, as the humming house seemed to welcome whatever was walking toward us. We stayed until sunrise, But what happened between 4 a.m. and the first light of morning is something I still struggle to explain. And I'm not sure I'm ready to tell you yet. The footsteps stopped just before reaching the edge of the light. The hallway stayed dark, thick with shadows that didn't move the way shadows should. The hum lowered again. Not gone, just quieter, like it was listening. None of us spoke. My mouth felt dry, and my hands were shaking even though I was sitting still. I tried to tell myself it was one of us moving around, but we were all right there on the couch, staring at the same empty space. "Did you hear that?" Samir whispered, though there was no doubt in his voice. He wasn't asking. He was confirming. Ayan nodded slowly. His eyes never left the hallway. Yeah, it wasn't the house this time. We waited, counting our breaths, waiting for the sound to come back. Nothing did. No more footsteps. No creak of floorboards. Just the low hum, steady and calm, as if nothing had happened. That somehow made it worse. I felt like the house had shown us something on purpose, just enough to let us know it could. After a long minute, I stood up. My legs felt weak, but staying still felt worse. "I'm checking," I said. Even as I said it, I didn't know why. Curiosity, maybe, or the need to prove to myself that I was still in control. Ayan grabbed my arm. "Don't go alone." So we went together, the three of us moving slowly toward the hallway, every step careful. The air felt colder there. The hum grew slightly louder, vibrating in my ears like a distant engine. We checked each room one by one. Empty. Beds untouched. Windows closed. No signs of anyone else. When we reached the end of the hallway, there was nothing but the closed basement door, quiet and still. "It's not here," Samir said. His voice cracked, just a little. We went back to the living room and sat down again, closer this time. None of us wanted to be alone. The hum continued, filling the house with that same strange rhythm. I checked the time. 4:22 a.m. "I don't think this just started tonight," Ayan said after a while. "What do you mean?" I asked. He hesitated, then spoke. "When my uncle gave us the keys, he said something weird. I didn't think much of it then." Samir turned to him. "What did he say?" Ayan took a breath. He said, "If the house makes noise at night, don't panic. It's just old." But the way he said it, it felt like there was more to it. That detail settled heavily in my mind. I thought about the hum, how specific it was, how it started at the same time. This didn't feel like random old house noise. Felt routine. Familiar. "Why didn't you tell us this earlier?" Samir asked, not angry, just tense. "I didn't think it mattered," Ayan said. "I still don't know if it does." The hum shifted again, just slightly, like it was responding to our conversation. I hated the thought, but I couldn't shake it. The house felt aware. Not alive in a way you could explain, but present, like it knew we were there and was adjusting to us. We tried distracting ourselves. Samir started talking about random memories from school, trying to bring some normality back into the room. I nodded and smiled at the right moments, but I wasn't really listening. My attention kept drifting to the walls, the ceiling, the floor beneath our feet. The sound seemed to travel through all of it, like the house itself was humming. At some point, I noticed something else. The hum wasn't the same everywhere. When I leaned forward, it felt stronger. When I leaned back, it softened. It wasn't just in the air. It was coming from below us. "The basement," I said quietly. Both of them looked at me. "It's louder near the floor," I explained. "Like it's coming up from underneath." "No," Samir said quickly. "We already checked down there." "I know," I said. "But something's different now." None of us wanted to go back down there, but the idea stayed with us, hanging in the air. The hum pulsed again, stronger for a moment, then settled. My chest tightened. I felt like we were missing something important, something the house wanted us to notice. "Let's wait until sunrise," Ayan said. "Just a few more hours." We agreed without discussion. Leaving at night felt wrong. Staying felt dangerous. Waiting felt like the only option. As time passed, strange little things began to happen. The lights dimmed and brightened slightly, even though we hadn't touched the switches. The air felt heavier, harder to breathe. Once, I swear I heard my name, faint and distant, woven into the hum. I didn't tell the others. I didn't want to make it more real. Around 5 a.m., the hum changed again. It slowed, each wave stretching longer, deeper. Sounded tired, almost sad. The house felt different, less aggressive but more intense, like it was settling into something. "Do you feel that?" Samir asked. "Yeah," I said. It's calming down." Ayan frowned. "Or building up." That thought sent another chill through me. I checked the windows. Outside, the sky was still dark, but there was a hint of gray on the horizon. Dawn was coming, but slowly, too slowly. I started thinking about why the house hummed at 2 a.m. Why that time? Why every night? I thought about how sound can travel, how it can carry messages, even memories. What if this wasn't just noise? What if it was something left behind, repeating itself night after night? The hum rose suddenly, sharper than before, cutting off my thoughts. The floor vibrated under our feet. Samir stood up, panic flashing across his face. "That's it. Something's wrong." Before any of us could respond, there was a soft knock. Not on the door, on the wall behind the couch. We all jumped to our feet, spinning around. The knock came again, slow, deliberate, as if something on the other side of the wall was trying to get our attention. The hum dropped low, almost silent, like it was holding its breath. I stared at the wall, my heart pounding, realizing with growing fear that whatever was making that sound wasn't trying to scare us anymore. It was trying to communicate, and we still had hours until sunrise. The knocking stopped as suddenly as it started. We stood there, frozen, staring at the wall like it might open up in front of us. The hum slowly crept back in, low and steady, wrapping around the room again. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it in my ears. I pressed my palm against the wall where the sound had come from. It was cold, solid, normal. Nothing on the other side that should have been able to knock back. "That wall leads outside," Samir said quietly. "There's nothing there." "That's what scares me," Ayan replied. We pulled the couch away from the wall, checking behind it like we might find a hidden door or a loose panel. There was nothing, just old paint slightly cracked like it had been that way for years. The hum continued, softer now, almost patient. It felt like the house was waiting to see what we'd do next. I sat back down slowly, my legs shaking. "I don't think it wants us to leave," I said before I could stop myself. Both of them looked at me. "Why would you say that?" Samir asked. I struggled to explain it. "Because every time we think about leaving or ignoring it, something happens. The sound changes. The footsteps. The knocking. It's like it reacts." No one argued. That silence told me they felt it too. Ayan rubbed his face, exhaustion clear in his eyes. "My uncle used to stay here alone sometimes," he said. "He never talked much about it, but now that I think about it, he stopped coming here a few years ago." "Did anything happen to him?" I asked. "He's fine," Ayan said. "But after the last time he stayed here, he sold most of the furniture and locked the place up. Said he didn't need it anymore." That didn't make me feel better. The hum deepened again, vibrating through the floor. I noticed something new then. The sound wasn't just filling the room anymore. It felt focused, like it was coming from a specific spot. Right under where we were standing earlier. Right under the couch. "Move," I said suddenly. They didn't ask questions. We stepped back as one. The hum grew louder, stronger, like it was relieved. The floorboards trembled faintly, enough to feel but not enough to see. Samir crouched down, pressing his ear close to the floor. "There's something down there," he said. "Not moving. Just there. The basement again. Always the basement." "I don't think it's about what's down there," Ayan said slowly. "I think it's about what happened down there." That thought hung heavy in the air. Old houses hold memories. Everyone knows that, even if they don't believe in anything supernatural. Sounds, smells, feelings, they stick around. I started to wonder how long the house had been humming at 2 a.m. Years? Decades? And why no one had ever done anything about it. The hum shifted into a pattern again, rising and falling, almost like breathing. I felt a strange pull in my chest, like part of me wanted to follow it, to understand it. That scared me more than the knocking ever could. "Guys," Samir said, his voice tense. "I think we should write down what's happening. Times, sounds, everything." I nodded. It felt grounding, practical. He grabbed a notebook from his bag and started jotting things down. 2:03 a.m. hum starts. 4 a.m. footsteps. 5:12 a.m. knock on wall. Seeing it written made it feel real, undeniable. As he wrote, I walked toward the window. Outside, the sky was lighter now, but the sun was still nowhere in sight. The house hummed steadily behind me, like it didn't care about the coming day. I noticed something strange then. The hum sounded weaker near the window. I leaned closer, faded slightly. I stepped back toward the center of the room, and it grew stronger again. "It doesn't like the outside," I said. "What?" Ayan asked. "The sound," I explained. "It's weaker near the windows, stronger inside." Samir stopped writing. "So it's contained. Or trapped," Ayan added. That word sent a chill through me. Trapped things don't stay calm forever. The hum suddenly spiked, sharp and loud, making us all flinch. The lights flickered again, longer this time. For a split second, the room went dark. In that darkness, I heard something else. Not a sound exactly, more like a feeling, a pressure in my head, like a thought that wasn't mine. "Stay." The lights came back on. Samir gasped, grabbing the edge of the table. "Did you?" "Yes," Ayan and I said at the same time. We didn't explain. We didn't need to. The house wasn't just making noise. It was reaching out. I felt a wave of emotion roll through me that didn't feel like my own. Loneliness, repetition, waiting. Whatever was tied to this house had been alone for a long time, repeating the same cycle every night at 2 a.m., humming into the darkness, hoping someone would listen. "That's why it started when we slept," I said softly. "It needed us quiet. It needed us to hear it." The hum softened again, almost grateful. Samir shook his head. "No, I don't care how sad it is. This isn't normal. This isn't safe." He was right. Feeling sympathy didn't make the fear go away. If anything, it made it worse. Because understanding something doesn't mean you can control it. From somewhere deep in the house, there was a faint sound of wood shifting. Not footsteps this time, more like something adjusting its weight. The hum followed it, sliding through the walls, changing direction. "It's moving," Ayan whispered. We backed toward the windows, instinctively seeking that weaker spot. The hum resisted, growing louder as if pulling us back. My head throbbed. My thoughts felt heavy, slow. "Don't listen to it," Samir said firmly. "Whatever it is, don't listen." I tried. I really did. But the sound felt personal now, tuned to us, responding to our presence. The house felt smaller, tighter, like it was closing in around us. Outside, the sky finally began to glow with the faint promise of sunrise. Inside, the hum rose once more, stronger than ever, as if it knew time was running out. And I couldn't shake the feeling that when the sun finally came up, this house wouldn't let us leave the same way we came in. The light outside grew slowly, painfully slow, like dawn was hesitating. Inside, the house felt tighter with every passing minute. The hum had settled into a deep, heavy vibration that pressed against my chest, making it hard to breathe normally. It wasn't loud anymore. It didn't need to be. It felt confident, like it knew we were running out of options. None of us spoke for a while. We stood near the windows, backs almost touching the glass, listening to the sound move through the walls. It no longer felt like it was coming from one place. It was everywhere now, wrapped around the rooms, the ceiling, the floor. I could feel it in my teeth, in my bones. The house hummed like a living thing trying to stay awake until sunrise. Samir checked his phone. 5:41, he said. His voice was flat, controlled, like he was holding himself together by force. "We just need to make it another hour." Another hour felt impossible. Ayan wiped his hands on his jeans. "What if sunrise doesn't stop it?" he asked quietly. What if it just changes? That thought had been sitting in my head too, unspoken. We'd assumed daylight was our escape because that's how these things are supposed to work. Night ends. Morning comes. Fear fades. But this house hadn't followed any rules so far. It started humming at 2 a.m. like clockwork. It reacted to us. Communicated. Who's to say it cared about the sun? The hum dipped suddenly, then rose again. Closer somehow. The wall behind me vibrated faintly. I stepped forward without thinking, my heart racing. "Don't," Samir said sharply. I stopped, but my attention stayed fixed on the wall. The same wall that had been knocked on earlier. My head felt heavy again, that same pressure building behind my eyes. Images flickered in my mind, not clear pictures, more like impressions. A dark room, someone sitting alone, waiting. The same sound night after night. "I think it's stuck in a loop," I said slowly. "Whatever happened here, it keeps repeating." Ayan swallowed. "And now we're part of it." The hum responded, deepening, almost approving. The lights flickered once more, longer this time. When they came back on, something felt different. The room looked the same, but the air felt thicker, charged, like before a storm. I realized then that the house wasn't just awake anymore. It was focused. From the hallway came a soft sound, like fingers brushing against wood. Not footsteps, not knocking, more deliberate, more careful. The hum followed it, flowing toward us, guiding it. Samir backed closer to the window. "We should break something," he said suddenly. "A window, a door, something." The idea shocked me, but it made sense. We needed to disrupt the house, break its control, remind it that the outside world still existed. Ayan hesitated. "What if that makes it worse?" The sound in the hallway grew louder, closer. The hum swelled, rising in pitch just enough to make my head ache. I felt that pull again, stronger now, like the house was urging us to stay calm, to stay still. "Whatever it wants," I said through clenched teeth. "It doesn't want us panicking." That decided it. Samir grabbed a chair and lifted it, breathing hard. The hum spiked sharply, vibrating violently through the floor. The lights dimmed, flickered, then steadied again. The house felt angry now, no longer patient. "Do it," Ayan said. Samir swung the chair toward the window. Before it could connect, the hum dropped so low it almost disappeared. The sudden silence hit harder than any sound. My ears rang. My heart skipped. Then, from directly beneath our feet, came a deep, hollow thud. The floor shook. Not enough to knock us down, but enough to make us stumble. The chair slipped from Samir's hands and crashed to the floor. The hum returned instantly, louder than ever, roaring through the house like a warning. "No!" Samir shouted. "No, no, no!" The thudding came again, stronger this time, followed by a long creak, like something heavy shifting below us. The basement door rattled at the end of the hallway. Ayan stared at it, eyes wide. It's not just sound anymore. The hum surged, filling every corner of the house. The walls vibrated. Dust fell from the ceiling. That pressure in my head turned into something clearer, more focused. A feeling of urgency, of need. "Stay. Listen. Finish." "I don't think it can leave the basement," I said, my voice shaking. "But it can make the house do things." The basement door rattled again, harder. The handle twisted slightly, then stopped. The hum pulsed in time with it, like a heartbeat. Outside, the sky brightened noticeably. The first thin line of orange appeared on the horizon. "It knows," Ayan whispered. "It knows morning's coming." The hum changed then, rising and falling faster, more desperate. The air felt hot now, heavy with tension. I felt tears sting my eyes, not from fear alone, but from the overwhelming sense of being watched, measured. The knocking returned, not on the wall this time, but from the floor beneath us. Slow, powerful, each knock sending vibrations through my legs. Samir grabbed my arm. "When the sun comes up, we run," he said. "No matter what." I nodded, even though I wasn't sure the house would let us. The hum reached a peak, so intense it felt like it might tear the place apart. The basement door slammed open with a loud crack, stopping just inches from the floor, like something heavy was holding it from below. From the dark stairwell came a rush of cold air and that same deep vibration, stronger than ever. The first rays of sunlight slipped through the window, touching the floor. The house responded with one final, massive surge of sound, as if it was gathering everything it had left. And whatever was down there began to move upward, just as the night finally started to end. The moment the sunlight touched the floor, the hum didn't fade like we expected. It split. That's the only way I can describe it. The deep vibration we'd been hearing all night seemed to divide into layers, one low and familiar, the other higher, sharper, almost anxious. The house trembled, not violently, but enough to make the windows buzz. Whatever we'd believed about morning weakening, it was wrong. Sunrise hadn't scared it away. It had changed it. The basement door stayed frozen, half open, held by something we still couldn't see. Cold air poured out of the stairwell, rolling across the floor like fog. The hum from below synced with it, matching its rhythm perfectly, like a heartbeat answering another heartbeat. "Why isn't it stopping?" Samir whispered. His confidence from moments earlier was gone. "It's supposed to stop." Ayan took a step back, his heel hitting the wall. "What if 2 a.m. isn't when it wakes up?" he said slowly. "What if that's when it remembers?" That sentence hit me harder than any sound. Remembering meant there was a past. Something specific. Something unfinished. The higher hum suddenly cut out, leaving only the deep one behind. The house felt heavier again, like it was sinking inward. The sunlight crept further across the floor, but it looked weak inside this place, dull and thin, like it didn't belong here. Then we heard it. Not footsteps, not knocking, breathing. It came from the basement stairwell, slow and uneven, rising and falling in time with the hum. My chest tightened so badly I thought I might pass out. This wasn't imagination anymore. This wasn't just a creepy house sound. It was deliberate. Samir covered his mouth. "There's no way," he muttered. "There's no way." The breathing stopped. For a long, unbearable second, everything went quiet except the low hum. I realized then that the house wasn't reacting to the sunlight or our fear anymore. It was listening to us. I felt that pressure in my head return, stronger than before, but now it came with clarity. Not words exactly, but understanding. The house didn't want us to leave. Not because it hated us, because it needed witnesses. "That's why it hummed when we were sleeping," I said, my voice barely steady. "It needed someone awake. Someone to notice." Ayan shook his head slowly. "Notice what?" Before I could answer, the breathing started again. Closer this time. The basement door creaked upward another inch, the wood groaning under the strain. Dust fell from the frame. The hum surged, echoing through the walls like a warning siren. Samir grabbed the notebook he'd been using earlier, flipping pages frantically. "Guys, look." We leaned in. One page wasn't filled with his handwriting anymore. Between the notes, faint lines had appeared, pressed into the paper so lightly they were almost invisible. Not ink. Impressions. Like someone had written hard enough to leave marks behind. They formed words. 2 o'clock. Wait, don't sleep. My stomach dropped. "This wasn't just for us," Ayan said. "This happened before." The hum deepened, as if agreeing. Suddenly, the front door rattled. We all spun around. The handle twisted slightly, then stopped. The sound didn't come from outside. It came from inside the door itself, like something on the other side was pushing outward, testing it. My heart raced. "That doesn't make sense." "It does," Samir said, voice trembling. "If it's trapped, it might be trying to use the house." The idea hit like ice water. The house wasn't just a location. It was a tool, a container. And now, with morning coming, whatever was bound to it was running out of time. The breathing from the basement turned rough, strained. The hum rose sharply, vibrating so hard the lamp tipped over and shattered on the floor. The sunlight flickered, dimming as if clouds had suddenly rolled in, though the sky outside was clear. "Something else is happening," Ayan said. This isn't just about night ending. I felt it too. The pressure in my head twisted, changing shape. The feeling of loneliness was still there, but now it was mixed with panic. Desperation. Like the house had reached the final part of its routine and didn't know what to do next. The notebook slipped from Samir's hands and fell open again. More words appeared, slow and uneven, like they were being pressed from the other side of reality. If you leave, it stays. If you stay, it ends. None of us spoke. The hum surged violently, rattling every window at once. The basement door slammed fully open with a thunderous crack, revealing nothing but darkness beyond the first step. The breathing stopped completely. Outside, birds began to chirp. The normal morning sounds felt wrong in here, like they were intruding on something private. The house responded with a long, rising hum that made my vision blur. Samir looked at us, eyes wide with fear and understanding. "It doesn't want daylight," he said. "It wants closure." The front door rattled again, harder this time. The walls creaked. The floor vibrated beneath our feet like a warning tremor. Whatever had been humming at 2 a.m. for who knows how many years was no longer content with being heard. It wanted a decision. And standing there, caught between the basement darkness and the fading safety of sunrise, I realized the house had one final trick left. It wasn't asking all of us to stay. It only needed one. The hum dropped suddenly, not fading but focusing. Like every sound in the house had narrowed down to a single point. Me. I felt it settle into my chest, heavy and warm, like a hand pressing gently but firmly. The pressure in my head sharpened into something clear and undeniable. It wasn't choosing randomly. It had already chosen. "I think it's me," I said quietly. Samir turned toward me so fast he nearly lost his balance. "No, don't say that." Ayan's face went pale. "Why would you even think that?" Because the house had been talking to me first. Because the images, the feelings, the understanding had come easiest when I listened. Because the hum softened whenever I spoke aloud, like it recognized my voice. The basement air surged upward, colder now, sharper, carrying the deep vibration with it. The breathing didn't return, but the presence did. Felt close, right beneath the first step. "I don't think it wants me to die," I said, my voice shaking. "I think it wants me to stay awake." The notebook on the floor flipped another page by itself. One night, until sunrise, every night, until remembered. Samir shook his head hard. "That's not a deal. That's a trap." "Maybe," I said, "but it's already happening. The house hums at 2 a.m. whether we're here or not. Someone always hears it." Ayan's eyes widened slightly. "My uncle," he whispered. "That's why he stopped staying here." The hum softened again, almost relieved. Outside, the sun climbed higher, light pouring through the windows now, but it didn't weaken the house. It only seemed to anger it. The walls creaked, the front door rattled violently, and the basement steps groaned as if something unseen was shifting its weight. "It's running out of time," Samir said. "So are we." I took a step toward the basement before I could talk myself out of it. The hum wrapped tighter around me, steadying instead of threatening. I felt fear, but beneath it was something else. Understanding. Like the house wasn't hungry. It was tired. "I'll stay until sunrise tomorrow," I said. "Just one night. I'll listen. I'll write everything down. Then it ends." Ayan grabbed my sleeve. "You don't know that." "I know," I said. "But it knows." The basement air stilled. The hum slowed, deepened, like a breath being released after years of holding it in. The pressure in my head eased for the first time all night. The notebook filled with one final line. Agreed. The house shuddered once, hard enough to knock us all off balance. Then the sound stopped. Not faded. Stopped. The silence was so sudden it hurt. No hum. No vibration. No pressure. Just the normal sounds of morning outside. Birds, distant traffic, the wind. The basement door creaked shut on its own, slow and careful, like a promise being sealed. Samir stared around the room, breathing hard. "Is it over?" "For now," I said. "We didn't stay to test it. We grabbed our things and left as quickly as we could. The house looked ordinary in the daylight. Quiet. Empty. No sign of the night we'd just survived. They didn't argue with me when I told them to go home. We didn't say goodbye properly. Fear does that to people. Pulls them apart fast. I stayed. That night, I sat alone in the living room with the notebook, every light on, waiting. I told myself it was just one night. I told myself I was in control. At 2 a.m. exactly, the house hummed. It was softer now, focused, familiar. I wrote everything down. The sounds, the feelings, the memories that weren't mine but flowed through me anyway. A man who'd lived here once. A mistake. A long wait. A routine born from regret and isolation. The hum wasn't a warning. It was a reminder. As dawn approached, the sound weakened, thinning until it vanished completely with the first light of sunrise. The house felt empty then. Truly empty. I left that morning believing it was done. Weeks passed. Nothing happened. The house stayed silent. No hum. No stories. No fear. I told myself we'd won. Then, one night, months later, my phone buzzed at 2:01 a.m. A message from Samir. "Hey, do you hear that?" I sat up in bed, heart pounding. From somewhere deep in my apartment walls, barely noticeable but unmistakable, came a low, steady sound. A hum. And that's when I realized the house hadn't needed someone to stay inside it. It had needed someone to carry it forward. For a long moment, I just sat there, staring at my phone, listening to the sound rise and fall inside my apartment walls. It was faint, much weaker than it had been in the house, but it was the same tone, the same rhythm, the same feeling. My chest tightened, not with panic this time, but with recognition. I finally understood what the house had done. It hadn't followed me. It had been transferred. I typed back slowly, my fingers shaking. "Yes, I hear it." There was a pause before Samir replied. "It's in my place too." That answered the last question I'd been afraid to ask. The hum wasn't tied to a building. It was tied to awareness, to memory, to being heard. When I stayed that night and listened, when I wrote everything down, I didn't end it. I spread it. I didn't sleep after that. I sat on the edge of my bed, notebook in hand, waiting. At exactly 2 a.m., the hum grew a little stronger, then settled. It didn't feel angry. It didn't feel desperate. It felt steady, familiar, like it had found a new routine. I realized then why it needed witnesses, why it needed someone awake. It wasn't trying to scare anyone. It wasn't even trying to escape. It was trying to be remembered without being trapped in one place. The house had been its cage. We had opened the door. Over the next few nights, the hum stayed soft but present. It never reached the intensity of that first night. No knocking, no footsteps, no pressure in my head. Just the sound, starting at 2 a.m. and fading at sunrise. I wrote every night, just like I'd promised. I didn't write out of fear anymore. I wrote to understand. The memories became clearer, less overwhelming. A man who had lived alone, a long illness, nights spent awake, listening to the house settle, humming to himself to fill the silence. The sound became a habit, then a comfort. Then, after he was gone, the habit remained. It wasn't a haunting. It was an echo. Once I understood that, the fear finally loosened its grip on me. The hum wasn't growing stronger. It wasn't spreading uncontrollably. It only appeared where someone noticed it, where someone listened long enough for it to matter. When Samir stopped answering my messages late at night, the hum faded from his place. When Ion stayed busy, distracted, sleeping through the night, it never followed him. It chose listeners. That was the balance. Weeks passed, then months. The hum grew quieter each night, like a story reaching its final lines. One morning, I realized I hadn't heard it at all. I checked the time. 2:15 a.m. had come and gone in silence. The walls were still. The air felt light. I waited the next night. Nothing. It was over. Not because it had been forced away, but because it had finally been fully remembered. Written. Acknowledged. Released. I met Samir and Ion a few days later. We sat in a crowded cafe, sunlight pouring in through the windows, the noise of people grounding us in the present. We talked about everything except the house at first. Normal things, safe things. Eventually, Samir asked, "Do you still hear it?" I shook my head. "No." "Do you?" "No," he said, relief clear in his voice. Ayan exhaled slowly. "Good. Let's keep it that way." We never went back to that house. I heard later it was sold, renovated, turned into something bright and modern. No reports of strange sounds. No late-night complaints. Just another building with a past no one talked about. Sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, I still pause and listen. Not because I'm afraid, but because I've learned something important. Silence isn't empty. Houses remember. Walls hold routines. Sounds linger long after the people who made them are gone. Most of the time, we're too busy, too tired, too distracted to notice. And maybe that's okay. But if you ever wake up at 2 a.m. and hear a low, steady hum, soft enough to doubt, familiar enough to feel wrong, don't panic. Don't run. And don't ignore it either. Listen. Some stories don't want to scare you. They just want to be heard one last time before morning comes.